And we do this by bringing forward lots of great programs, initiatives, and campaigns to support entrepreneurs across all industry sectors. These include our accelerator program, fintech programs, next level, and business builder. So all of these programs are designed to provide wraparound support and care for entrepreneurs, connecting you to the right people, providing coaching, and also bringing you content that is absolutely right for growing your business. So everything from mindset to visioning to understanding finance, we are bringing all of this support. What I will ask right at the early doors is, if you get an opportunity, do check out NatWest Business Builder or RBS Business Builder or Ulster Bank Business Builder. This will give you access to online community, online content, and more of these fantastic events that we run. So I'm going to park that bit there, and I'm going to invite Shania to introduce our panel for you today.
Thank you so much, Sharon. I'm really excited to be here and really excited for today's event. So without further ado, it is my greatest pleasure and honour to welcome our first speaker, Dr. Ava Eagle-Brown, who is a multi-award-winning speaker, author and transformation business coach. She's the author of her memoir, The Mango Girl, and calls herself the Mangopreneur, with a skin and hair care brand in the same name. So Ava, to kick off, I'd like to ask you a question to help you introduce yourself. Please, can you tell us what resilience means to you?
Thank you so much, Sonia. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me. For me, resiliency means the ability to pick yourself up and keep on trying no matter what. I think we all get kicked down all the time, but it's the ability to say, you know what, I don't know what's on the other side. So this last get up might be the time when it actually falls together for me. And that's what resiliency means to me.
Thank you so much, Ava, for such a brilliant answer. So I'd like to welcome our second speaker, Joel Blake, OBE, who is also a personal friend of mine. So thank you so much for joining us, Joel. Joel is a multi-award-winning businessman, a public speaker with a passion for fintech and entrepreneurial leadership. Joel is the founder and CEO of GFA Exchange, an award-winning B2B fintech company, and he was also recently appointed the president of the Commonwealth Chamber of Commerce. So to introduce yourself, Joel, please could you talk to me about what you think defines an entrepreneurial spirit?
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me and all our guests this morning. In typical entrepreneurial fashion, I had a family emergency first thing this morning. So jumping on 9 now is certainly testing my entrepreneurial spirit. But for me, to me, it's the essence of human spirit. I truly believe that as human beings, we're all entrepreneurial. We all have difficulties and circumstances. We all have problems to solve. So I believe the entrepreneurial spirit is about being the most authentic you that you can be and bringing your value into any environment that you're in.
Thank you so much, Joel. That's a fantastic definition. So next we have Dr. Yvonne Thompson CBE, who has over 37 years experience in the communications, marketing and PR industry, advising corporates, public sector, educational establishments and government on championing equality, diversity and inclusivity in the workplace. She's celebrating the 23rd anniversary of founding the first Black Women in Business network that was set up in the UK. And most recently, she launched her Win Trade Global Talks, which are a weekly lunchtime discussion for women to ignite and keep their passion for business alive during this global pandemic. You do such amazing work, Yvonne, but please could you tell us, what is your superpower?
Oh, wow. Wow, oh, that's a good question. So for me, I think my superpower is networking, bringing women together, supporting, celebrating women in business across the globe. And that's what I've been doing for 23 years. So I think that must be my superpower.
And what a wonderful superpower to have. Thank you. And last but by no means least, I'm very pleased to also welcome Bernie Davies joining us today. Bernie is a best-selling author, business strategist, mentor, personal brand expert and sought-after speaker. She's presented globally at several events, including the United Nations. And Bernie's latest best-selling book, Your Business, Your Way, is a unique perspective on business development, and it achieved the accolade of Amazon's number one hot new release in all 3 of the categories it was listed in. And it's also, I know, being launched as a paperback. Is it this Friday, Bernie? You're on mute, Bernie. And sorry, so my question for you, Bernie, is could you describe yourself for me in 3 words?
Right. Okay. I realized I was on mute earlier on when I responded. The Amazon, the book actually is out now. I'm holding it in my hands. And thank you for that introduction. And yes, wow, describe myself in 3 words. I would have to say that in 3 words, I am authentic. Because to hark back to what the other panelists just said about networking and about also in the importance of being your best you, that's what it's all about. For me, it's about finding the uniqueness in yourself, owning it, bottling it, and selling it, but make it be what it is that is truly you, not something that you're actually trying to do that you are admiring in somebody else, but find yourself. And when you are yourself, you'll always be consistent. You'll always be somebody that people want to be around.
No, that's so true. So thank you so much, Bernie, and thank you to all of our panel members today. I'm really excited for this discussion. So I'm going to kick off with the first question. So I'll throw this one out to everybody to start off with. For all of you, what does a great leader do, in your opinion?
Anybody? Just anybody?
Yeah. If you want to take it first.
I think a great leader serves. You know, I take my inspiration from Jesus, the Bible. And I think he's one of the greatest leaders of all time. He's still current today as he was how many years ago. And when I look at what his life was all about, it was about leading. And when I now jump back into my present day and I look at the people that are making a difference and leave lasting legacies, they're always people that serve, that put other people first, and that the agenda is not theirs, but it's that of the people.
Okay.
Great answer. But Bernie, you said something there earlier about being authentic. And I think one of the things that makes people entrepreneurs is that authenticity and that desire to put forward their purpose and their view. So it'd be great to hear from the panels as well in terms of that, what makes that great entrepreneurial leader, but what was that driving purpose for you as well? So just want to add that into that question for you guys to answer.
Right. Well, for me, it was my mother, and she always said, you need to know yourself. Because I grew up, I was the 4th of 5 children in a very, well-respected, very high-powered, very high-achieving family. And so I couldn't find my way. And very early in my life, when I was 4 years old, I discovered that if I won the weekly, on a Friday evening, multiplication spelling quiz, I would not only get the tin of peanuts that was a prize, but I would get some attention in the whole thing. And I learned really early then that what I needed to do was to be competitive, but then jump back into in my teens, it made people not like me. I had a lot of problems in high school, and I used to go home and speak to my mother, and she'd always say to me, you've got to know yourself. And she was an English professor, very highly qualified, and she used to say, you tell me in Latin, not say tell me all sorts of foolishness. And I couldn't get it until when I finally discovered that I had to know myself. When in knowing myself, I can own myself, my weaknesses, my strengths, and then through that, I can become an authentic, good version of myself, the one I want to be, but it has to come from an authentic place. So that's how I'd finish my answer.
And I absolutely concur with that, Bernie. And I think for me, in addition, it's the ability to embrace your vulnerability. I think often we see vulnerability as something as a negative. But I truly believe that when you're vulnerable, you're in a, and forgive the word, but you're in a naked state, because that's your core reality. You're emotionally attached to that to that environment that you're in, or the situation that you're in. It forces you to have to make a decision one way or the other. And you can either decide to go 10 steps back to where you've come from and back into your comfort zone, or you can decide to take half a step forward. And I believe that half a step forward is the liberating piece, because that's when you learn more about yourself. You learn about how to be the best you learn about what really drives you, you learn about your character, you learn how you deal with situations. But often as entrepreneurs, well, I know I've certainly done in my own career to date, where you think because you don't know the answers, it's like almost like you think you have to know the answers, and you try and seek all the insight from everybody else to help you make the best step. But I think that's only 50% of the solution. The other 50% is stepping into that unknown, and that comes from that vulnerability and being willing to embrace it. So I think being a leader, being an entrepreneur is about embracing your vulnerability, to know that you are here to learn and to grow, but it starts with you first.
I like what Joel said about being resourceful, because I think a leader is resourceful. I think a great leader is resourceful, has contingency plans. And to answer the second part of that question is that you asked, when did you get there? When did you start? For me, it was as young as 10 years old. Growing up in the Caribbean, my family was really poor. We had nothing. And I was the eldest of 10 children, well, 9 at the time. And I had to become the breadwinner. So I was selling mangoes as a young child on the train in the same community that I should be going to school, and I was bullied. And I had to find that piece of the resiliency when I was being bullied and jeered about, your mango gal means mango girl, hence my brand. You should be in school. And I had to be, as a leader, deciding that when my family's home and they're hungry and they need to be fed. And as a child, I had that responsibility very early, but I had to be resourceful. So I think a true leader is resourceful, resilient, but also has a contingency plan. And I think those are components that you have to take. And a leader has to sometimes make some unpopular decisions in the best interest of, and at that time as a child, without even recognizing it, now I look back, I was making a decision as a child to feed my family, and didn't realize I was developing leadership skills. So those are some of my viewpoints on what a true leader is.
Yeah, for me, the essence of a true leader is being able to, or not asking it's leading by example, and not asking people to do what you're not prepared to do yourself. You may have the experience and you may want to share the task, but be prepared to show and lead by example. Very much the same as everybody else that's spoken so far. I'm the youngest of 6. So again, it was always about fighting for attention. How do you get the recognition that the rest of your family have had? And it's made me very competitive. Because of that, I became the first person in my family to start a business, followed by 2 others. I became the first person to go to college in the UK in my family. My daughter was the first to go to university. We arrived here back in the 60s, and I tell the story that when we left, we're from Guyana. One minute I was running around literally in the cane fields in just outside of Georgetown, and the next day I was in cold, foggy, rainy England. It was so scary. And I always say that true entrepreneurs, I think immigrants are the true entrepreneurs, because we often arrive in a place where we know nobody, we don't have any kind of support infrastructure. Quite often we don't speak the language, we don't know the culture. And, for us, or for me, my family, my parents picked up 6 children and came to the UK at the behest of the Queen, or they thought they were invited by the Queen to come and help rebuild the mother country. Joel knows what I'm going to say.
That's why I'm laughing.
Yeah. And when you arrive, of course, it's totally the opposite. And back in the 60s, when we arrived, it was still legal for landlords to have a notice on their doors that says, come on, you can all help me with this.
No dog,
No blacks, no Irish.
Dogs, no Irish, no blacks. You know, the dogs were above us.
Wow.
But they still found somewhere for us to live. Worst part of London, Battersea, the worst part of Battersea, right under the power station, which was live at the time.
Wow.
So, you know, right now that street was no longer exists. They demolished the street because it was that bad. And I think it's still currently, it's probably, I think it's a gated community now. And I always say to myself, if only I knew then about property prices, what I know now, we would have, you know, squatted or something. But there you go. I just think that immigrants, we start from the bottom, and it's almost like a spring. We have so much passion, so much enthusiasm that we spring to the top.
Yeah.
You know, and that's my point of view.
Yes.
Thank you.
I just want to tap quickly into what Dr. Thompson said, which I think is such a great piece around leaders leading by example and being able to do. And I remember, and I could go to an example. I was working in retail as a retail manager in a large supermarket chain, won't call their name. And I remember you had the car park needed to be swept, and the staff wouldn't do it. I was the youngest manager on the team, and I went out there and I literally rolled up my sleeves and swept it. And I was like, okay, so if I can do it as the manager in the store, when I ask you again. And so the respect that came.
Yeah.
Suddenly, everybody felt, well, when she asked me to sweep the car park, I can do it. Leaders need to know your business inside out, and you should be able to do every task. Every task, nothing should be below you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to follow on that from what Dr. Thompson said,
Yeah.
because very often we sometimes forget that we need to lead by example, and we need to know our businesses inside out.
Yeah, and that's a servant leader concept, you know. And I always say I never ask anybody to do something that I would not do myself, and that's exactly what you're saying. But then, Dr. Thompson, do you know you have my maiden name? Just think I need to tell you that. That's my maiden name.
Well, it's a good sign. It's a good sign.
Guys, I just want to, I already knew this conversation was going to be great, and the comments coming through are fantastic. So I just want to speak to the audience for a second, that if you have any questions for our panelists, please do put those questions into the Q&A function. Our colleague Shawan is there managing that, so we will bring the audience questions to our panel. But I know that we have so many questions we want to ask you, so can we go through some of those? Now, my burning question is this. Within our accelerator hubs, we often see entrepreneurs who have done everything in their business. They've been the accountant, they've been the marketing person, they've been the salesperson. And as they look to grow, it means bringing more people into their team. How do you find that A team? What's the things that you look for in your team around you? And tell me some of the fails as well, because we can learn from those too. So
could I answer that, because this
Sure.
is such a really prevalent question, because we're looking at hiring as we speak. Good and bad experiences, right? So
yeah,
the bad experience was that I'm not from a technology background. You know, I set up a financial lending firm previously. We were funding entrepreneurs across the UK. It was fantastic. Saw a problem in our business, saw it was an industry issue, decided to go into the world of fintech to solve it. But in going into that space, I then enlisted individuals to come on board onto the team who had more experience than me in the space. Yeah. And that itself was a good thing in my head, but it turned out to be a bad decision at that point with two of those individuals, and obviously I won't name them, because they thought because they had more experience than me in the space, it gave them a sense of executive decision-making and leadership and driving the business in the way that they thought it should be led. And I totally co-signed what Bernie said about the idea of servant leadership. So I took a step back. I said, all right, well, you are more experienced than me. You know, you're the experts. That's why I brought you in. That's great. Let's do it. But there's a fine line between bringing in the right expert talent and being able to lead that talent. Yeah. And that was a lesson that I had to learn, which then leads me on to the good side, which is the fact that it's about that human spirit and values and the culture that you're creating in the organization. Yeah. And the relationship that you build with each individual within that culture. So when I'm recruiting because I want people to be the type of people where, would I bring this person home to have dinner with my family on a Friday evening? could I sit down with them and have a conversation about life? You know, it's not just about what I see on the paper. I want to feel that kind of human spirit and connection, because for me, it's not about the good days in the business. It's when the kind of proverbial comes and we have to stand side by side and we have to go in the trenches together. Are you going to be there with me?
Yeah. And Joel, that's the thing.
So it's not good and bad for me.
Yeah, and Joel, that's the thing, because it's about who we are. And there's a saying, something that my father always said, you have to be careful that you do not let your talent take you where your integrity cannot keep you. Yes? So you were you chose talent. But at the time, now you wouldn't do it. You also now are going to check character. You're going to check personality. You're going to check their core values and how do they match up with yours. See, it's not just about what you do. It's always back to who you are. You know, so yes, it's good to choose people, and I do choose people who have skills that would complement mine. I know I am very aware of who I am. I'm very aware of what I'm good at, and I'm also even more aware of what I'm not good at to fill that gap and to enhance what I do. But the people behind that talent, that's when you're able to, that's the magic. When you can find the right people with the right talent, then you're onto a winner.
Wow, I want to just tap into both Bernie and Joel, especially what Joel said, and I'm just very, very, I'm vulnerable, I'm authentic, and I'm very non-negotiable about it. It's okay. I'm okay with it. So I am and I'm just an okay girl. I don't like the fuss, I don't like the makeup. I'm comfortable in my skin. And I find myself as a CEO and founder of a hair and skin brand. And God, trust me, I got it these days because it's just not who I am. I love making the products. I've got a scientific background and I enjoy it. And I love being behind the scene. And then my divorce happened and I found myself having to start a new business. I moved to Northern Ireland. So no dogs, no Irish. I'm actually in Northern Ireland. And I was just laughing at that. And I left London, moved to Northern Ireland because I wanted to be restored. And I was tired. You get a divorce hits you hard. And then I came here, and as Dr. Thompson said, and she was right, we have to bounce back. We jump into a new environment and we start. So I started a business in a country I knew nothing about. Literally, it was crazy. NatWest actually helped me to start that business, back her business. So all of you guys who are on here, just make sure you check it out. But going back to what Joel said, found myself in the space of this new business. I knew nothing about what the magazine say you should look like, but I knew I was good at doing the business. And so I was the CEO, the CFO, I was the scientist, I was doing everything. And then I realized I can't grow the business. I can't be everything. And as a leader, you have to get to the place where you understand that in order for you to grow, you can't do everything. I'm a speaker and a trainer and a coach. That's what I'm good at. But I'm not good at the marketing and everything. So I needed to employ somebody to work with me. And I did that because I looked for where I was deficient. Because you needed a team that had all the pieces, like the members of the body. So I looked at where I was deficient, but also I needed somebody who understood the vision of what I was trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And then in doing that, I actually found somebody who was passionate, not about me necessarily, but passionate about the brand or the concept of what we were creating. And let me tell you something. With that, I found magic. I struggled to let go somebody who I was working with. I'm very philanthropical, and so I really had the attachment where her children were hungry, whatever, and I had to say, "Well, Ava, it's not working, so you have to let her go." So I employ people who understand the vision of what I'm trying to create, people who understand that this is my business, but you might come in as a visionary, and I can see. I'm in the picture, so I can't see the frame. But with you coming in, you can enhance and complement. And sometimes I don't have to necessarily be your friend because that's just how I feel. That not everybody who come on your team, you'll be, like that. But there are some people on it who you'll end up having at the dinner table. And you have to understand somebody who understands the vision of what you're trying to create. And lastly, you cannot be everything in your business because you won't grow.
Definitely. Well said.
Can I just make a comment on all three of what all of you've said? I think that being, you know, bringing people in is not necessarily about, as you've all said, it's not necessarily about being a friend or being a friend. It is about people you can trust and people that you can work with. And it is about adding the different elements. It's almost like having a board. You know, my whole thing is about women on boards and minorities on boards. You have to have a board that represents, you might be the chairperson, chairwoman, chairman, but you need people who have specialities around the board. You have someone who is going to be a good accountant or advise you on accounts, someone who can advise you on marketing. And I don't think you have to let go of some of it, because you have to recognize that, as you've all said, you can't be good at everything, or even if you are good at everything, you can't do everything. So you have to let go and let some people come in. But how they then work, I think, is a mark of respect. The respect or the lines that you lay down before they come into your boardroom or before they sit at your table. So I think it's a respect thing. I mean, I have people doing stuff for me all over the place, and if they're never sure, they will come and ask me first. They always come and ask me first. So I think it's about respect as well.
Yvonne, sorry, Joe, I've got to chip in there, because you've just triggered another question in my head that's related to this. What happens when somebody comes into your team that's better than you?
Oh, that's not a problem. That is not a problem. Like I said before, you're not going to be great at, I think we've all said, you're not going to be, even if you know what needs to be done. Like, I love technology, I love software, I love learning, but it always takes me so long. And I'm very focused, I'm very determined, I'm happy to fall down and get up again. That grows your resilience, that grows your bounce back ability. But at the end of the day, I know there's somebody out there that can do it twice as fast, twice as better, and get the results that I want. So you have to know what you're prepared to let go of while having an overview.
Love that.
Very quickly, can I say that quickly? The girl who's on my team as a marketing manager, she's better than me. Can I just be honest? She is better than me because she knows the industry. I do not. Do I feel offended or scared? No, absolutely not. I'm the visionary. That's what I am.
And that's it.
And so I'm not afraid. And we must not be afraid, because that holds our business back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but can I just say, Ava, I wouldn't agree with that she's better than you. I would say she's better than you at marketing your business.
No, that's what okay. She's better than, she understands the business. No, I'm gonna be honest. She understands what I'm trying to do in terms of the pieces that need to come together better than me. I'm just good at making the products. I understand the products, but I make and I formulate and I I know the products I want to create. But she takes all of that and she runs with it and she creates magic.
But there are, but I think, but one thing I'd probably also say on top of that, Ava, and going back to what you just said as well, Dr. Thompson, is there are certain traits within our community that enabled us to be able to accept that people are better than us in roles. And it goes back to some of the things that you said earlier, and in particular about families. It's interesting, like I come from a family of 9, so it's a typical Caribbean trait. And I was the last, well, up until about 10 years ago, I was the second to last. I was the last child, I'm now second to last. But some of the key things that I found is the essence of humility, discipline, and resilience, as was said earlier.
Yeah.
Because we've been brought up in our community to be humble, not to let anyone step on you or step over you. Let's not get it twisted, but a sense of humility about who you are and managing pride. That's ingrained into our culture. The essence of discipline. You know, I remember going Sunday school and not wanting to go, and that blue van turning up, and the rest of the Vaseline that I put on my face, my mum would tell me to wipe on my shoes. Right there, embarrass me, and you know what I mean. There's certain disciplines that we've been brought up on, but that's helped us in our businesses as well, because there's certain things we will stand for and certain things we won't, and that brings it forward into our businesses with our people that we're bringing in. Yeah. And then the essence of resilience, again, going back to what was said earlier, that's a given. like we've had to be resilient. Our whole cultural experience has been based on having to be resilient. All that we're seeing globally in our lifestyle, in our life experience, it's just another hurdle for us. But what people don't realize is that we draw so much strength from challenge. That gives us a competitive advantage. So people just need to get out of our way, because we're going to succeed regardless.
It's a culture that actually helps us to understand that there is room at the table for everyone. There's a seat at the table for everyone.
We create our tables. We don't just wait to get somebody to
And we bring people in, and more of the same.
Clarify, because I don't want anybody on the audience side to misunderstand that. There's absolutely nothing wrong in somebody being on your team who knows something in the business more than you. It means that, and I don't mean that it's in a bad way, because you need to go and learn some of those things. But if you have to be everything, you will never excel. So my girl is better than me in a lot of things. She doesn't know how to make my products and stuff, but in terms of other parts, she's better than me, and I'm okay with that, because we are a team, and she understands my vision, and she's helping me to execute. And I really want us not to get that a little bit confused.
And then I think really with what Dr. Thompson said about people respecting her and in her business.
Trust, I think, is a big thing.
Pardon?
Trust is a big point, because you have to trust the people.
Trust and respect. So as long as they know who's in charge, you know, at all times, is that he's tracking that balance. Yes, you're incredible, you're really good, but this is my business. You know? And it takes time to get to learn that, but I've had to all these years.
So guys, I think Shania's got another question for us. Over to you, Shania.
Amazing chat, but we have so many coming through from the audience, so I really want to try and get to some of their questions, if okay. So our first one is essentially, as a Black entrepreneur, what challenges, or have you faced any challenges? And I guess what traits have you used to overcome those challenges, or what things have you used to overcome those challenges you may have faced?
Oh God.
Well, for me, it's been.
Joel, come on, let's hear from you first. Joel's going, where do I start?
I'll be succinct. I think we've covered a lot of that just in the previous conversation there. But I think the reality is that we always strive for a purpose bigger than the business. There's always a reason why we're trying to do what we're doing, and as long as, and I know that works in any business. You know, you shouldn't just start a business for money. You know, money is a tool. It's something that helps you to achieve. It's not about the money in itself. But I think we also come from a community where the purpose is often grounded in deeply spiritual aspects, community-based aspects, social aspects, a sense of family. We always have this thing around try and help others and do for others. We've been kind of brought up on that as a given. So there's always a underlining purpose behind what we're doing. Even if there are material things that we want and things that we want to do and achieve and what have you, there is still this underlining purpose of, you know, when it sounds morbid, but when your time is no longer here on the earth, what have you left? What's your life meant? What have you contributed? What is that legacy? And there's always that sense of leaving something positive for the next person to take, or the next generation to take. So for me, that's always been core to how I've been, in terms of, well, you know, in the scheme of things, it's going to sound really flippant, but you'll know what I mean. When it comes to real life versus business, business is interesting, but it's not as real life, if that makes sense. Some of the things that we've all gone through in our lives, if you compare that to business, business is just a game. And I'm not saying that in a flippant way to demean business, but life is life. And you have to just really understand what's really important to you, and how business can be the vehicle to help you to achieve those important things, rather than it just being about loads of O's in your bank accounts and sitting on a beach somewhere. You can only sit down on the beach for so long.
I love what Joel said.
To be honest, what Joel says really resonates with me, because, you know, I am a lawyer by training, and I practiced up until 2009. And my last legal role was as head of property at New Law Solicitors, and I just moved on from Bradford. And I had to run the department. I had to go networking. And that was when I really discovered my true purpose in life, because I realized, as Joel said, it's not just about the business, it's what difference are you making in people's lives? And I started through networking, realizing that I can make a difference with people in business. And when the opportunity came for me to branch out into just teaching people how to network, how to build their business, how to find themselves, find the uniqueness in themselves, to build their business brand and build their business culture, and to work with teams. And when you see people with their shoulders hunched, they're looking down, they don't know what they think to do next, and then you literally see the whole body language change and the light in their eyes and hope, and then you see them shining, and that to me is the kind of, as you said, legacy. That's a legacy. And that's why I left the practice of law. I mean, people might think I'm flippant, but hey, I left the practice of law in 2009 and set up my business, just helping people to build themselves and their businesses, and yes, at the same time running other businesses as well, but it was never about, since that time, never about just the practice or earning money. So I've got to say, Joel, you hit the nail on the head there.
Thank you. I think for me, the part of the question I want to address, because you guys have done that so eloquently in terms of the legacy building, is it? I think you asked the challenges. Is that correct? Was it challenges you asked? And I want to tap into the challenges because I totally agree with Bernie and Joel. It is all about philanthropy, as I said earlier. It's big for me. Is what that legacy is huge for us, and because we have to work twice, probably 5 times as hard to get things, done as people of color. And that's true, or BAME, as you want to say, or I would say somebody of African extraction. However, as a woman, some of my challenges that I've faced, and I was speaking at an event for McKinsey and Co. and JP Morgan 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to go back to the same thing. The reports show that women are harder to get funding for their businesses. When you're a Black woman, then the journey is 10 times harder. I'm just amplifying that. So funding is one of my hardest things. Like right now, we're trying to scale. Our business is doing very well, but we're trying to scale. And funding is hard. I came out of a bad divorce. It impacted my credit, and I'm open about it. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend. So it's impact. I'm having that legacy that I'm carrying over from my marriage. So my credit is impacted. And because of that, I can't get loans. I can't get certain things. So it's sweat equity and all of that. And it's hard. So when I'm just hear Joel talk about he wants to fund people, I'm thinking, okay, probably I need to have a conversation right here, right? So the networking, right? We learn how to network. But the challenge of getting funding, the other challenge I find as a woman, a Black woman, is that people think that right away you're Black. And so there's a perception that comes with you. You're Black and confident. Oh my God, that's a problem. And some of those things shut doors in your face. But because I kick the doors down, that's who I am. I just keep going. But not everybody is like that. So the challenge of funding, the challenge of perception of my color, I've got dreadlocks, not because I'm a Rasta, I just don't like doing hair, right? And those are perceptions. Also, the concept that I'm a woman and I'm doing a business is a hobby. I'm tired of hearing that. I'm pitching men and they think, oh, it's just a hobby. And those are some of the stereotypes that impact us. But as Black people, the loan interest rates are higher when we do get through. So those are some of the challenges we face, and we have to be real about them because they exist, and I face them every day. So those are just a few of the challenges we face, and they're hard to deal with, and they're hard. But to the panelists, we keep going because in our DNA, that's who we are. We just keep on going.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm leading on from that question. I'm pretty sure that the majority of our attendees that are listening in on this panel today are entrepreneurs. So they're going to really hear what you're saying and it's going to resonate with them. But what about opportunities for people that don't want to be CEOs, but just want to do the best job they can are being pushed back? So what's your advice to people out there that maybe don't want to run a business, but actually just want to get by, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they're finding that doors are closing in their face? What would be your advice to those people?
Keep going. You've got to keep going, and you've got to be creative in your approach. Well, keep going by, first of all, attending things like these, finding out where there are places that are giving support. There are lots of organizations now. You have the BUIP network that's helping people with careers. You have people, things that Joel is involved in, the panel here is involved in. You have other local authorities have various things that are going on in the Bay and in the BME community. There are things. You've got to connect yourself. You've got to go networking, because listen, networking, that's why I love it. You go into a networking room and you have no idea who you're going to meet. honestly. And this thing about 6 degrees of separation, I found in networking sometimes it's 1 degree. You're talking to somebody who you think you really can't help you, or you don't want their business. But then if you just talk to them and be friendly and be interested, and the conversation opens up, you find that they know somebody that they can connect you to, and they might connect you on the same day, but you develop relationships. It's all about developing relationships, and ask. So you don't, let me tell you, you're talking to somebody, right, who came from the Caribbean in 2000, and I was a prominent lawyer, and the plans I had at the time didn't work out. Okay, and so I was being hit with overqualified, right? So I was facing this. What do I do? In a culture that I didn't understand really how it works, the dynamics? Well, I found a job for myself. I was going to a church. They had offices in the city center, and they had a lot of outreach. And I said, could I get one of those offices? And I set up a charity helping asylum seekers and refugees and people in the British people who needed support to get to social services. That UN speaking engagement that's on my resume came from those 3 years that I did that. And then I learned then through talking to people how to cut my CV down, to cut the cloth to suit the job. And I landed my first conveyancing job. I have so many incidents of things. And I took menial jobs first as well. So
Yeah,
I didn't want to go up to the door line. So I took menial jobs. So listen, you can do it, guys. You can do it. Keep going, keep knocking at doors, keep asking, but don't stay in your home. Don't.
But Bernie, quickly, because I think as a personal development coach, I'm going to address it from a different angle, because before you get to the place where you can step out there, you've got to work on self. You've got to identify the inner critic. You've got to understand what is it that's blocking you. You have to sometimes sit down and listen to the still small voice and find the elements and the pieces to work on yourself. Sometimes it's self. But Simon Sinek has an amazing book that says start with why. What's your why? Find your why. I think sometimes we have to understand that sometimes the work is the inner work, is understanding the inner work first. Find the resources that helps you with the inner work, because sometimes the blockage is inside. Do you know how many times I stand in front of an audience of 15, 20,000 people still today? And I was speaking on stage with Shari Lee Ralph a few years ago, the actress in Washington. And I remember hearing my inner critic says, girl, you don't belong here. Literally all my past and because we all have it. Let's just not sit and pretend, right? Let's just keep it real. And I'm standing on stage with Shari Lee Ralph, big actress, and I felt small. I could be doing the inner talk, the self-talk. So it's finding out the inner critic, how to silence that critic, find your why, find your purpose, and literally find skills and tools that you work on every day. Whenever I'm on stage and I'm nervous, I just do this, and I know what it means. So before we can even step out to go to the job center, get job, whatever, and network, we have to find tools to work on self. And I really think I don't want that to be missed.
I mean, could I just add to that, Ava, because you're absolutely right. And you know, there were kind of 3 things that I was trying to remind myself when, or certainly in the earlier days, I always reminded myself on, particularly when, you know, I planned to be an accountant. I didn't plan to be an entrepreneur. So in those early days, it was about, for me, clarifying your vision. So one thing is about wanting to achieve something. Another thing is having clarity about what that looks like when you get it, and the emotional connection to that. So for example, if you wanted to be a doctor, that's not a vision for me. What type of doctor, you know, what type of, you know, specialism, you know, do you want to be a doctor that works with kids in third world countries that might have a disability? You know, whatever it is, it's the clarity of that vision, because the emotional connection to that, that's what will take you through those darker days. And the second thing for me is watch your language. Not what you say to people, but what you say to yourself, which goes back to what Ava said, because your thoughts create feelings, actions, results. So if this is wrong in the very first place, you got to get you got to manifest what you think about and what you say to yourself and what you choose to believe. So the inner critic, the actual, you know, the ability to then look who you can connect with the resources, the networking, as Bernie said, those things 100%. It starts with you. And it's not about, for me, looking at someone else and saying, well, they've done it like that, then they've done it like that, they've done it like that. It's like, well, that's great, but I don't know what they've gone through to get to that point where when I see them, I have this perception of how things ought to be. That's their experience. But what can I take from that and mold into my own? And then what's the first step I need to take? And how do I measure and how do I hold myself accountable for those steps? I think that's quite important, but it does start with the inner you.
No, it definitely does. And that's also such great advice. And I'd just like to bring in another question that one of our audience members has asked. You're also passionate about supporting others. And I'd like to come to Dr. Yvonne Thompson first, if I may. But for others out there who may be obviously recognising the current landscape and the fact that there are certain things that there are barriers in certain people's way, what would you suggest for our audience members who want to support communities and more broadly, I guess, the BAME community? What kind of things would you suggest that they could do or get involved with?
Okay,
Shani,
first,
I was just going to say, I'm not sure, is Yvonne on the call? Because
I am. I'm really sorry. My laptop crashed during this. It's buzzing away in the back there. I'm expecting it to explode, and I've not used my iPad before for stuff like this. So this is resilience. This is bounce back ability. This is determination.
Let's go.
All in all. So until I sort out the camera in the right position, I'm going to just keep talking, if that's okay with you. I think you all know who I am and what I look like already. But, you know, for supporting others, it comes from passion, just like your work, just like your any business that you start. You've got to be passionate about what it is you do. And when you're passionate, if you're passionate about supporting others, like I'm passionate about supporting other women in business, I'm passionate about supporting women on boards, I'm passionate about supporting minority-owned businesses, and I've been doing that for the past as long as I've been in business. You know, when I first started my PR company, there were no other Black PR companies. Couldn't find other Black women in business. 40 years ago, there weren't that many women in business, never mind Black women in business. Then when I started Choice FM, the radio station, that was the first legally owned radio station. The things we had to do to get through, to get a legal license. And through that, we were able to support the Black community, because before then, the Black community could not afford to advertise on radio. They could not afford to spread the word about their, you know, there was no social media. There was just about email at that time. So having a radio station of our own where we could advertise and support other people within that community was so important. But as I say, you know, my passion for what I do, whether it's my business, supporting other women in business, running my network, my passion keeps me up late at night, and my passion wakes me up early in the morning, and sleep gets in the way. So, you know, if I could carry on, I would. But it goes back to the whole, you know, what we were all saying earlier on. You cannot do everything yourself. You know, it will very quickly come to a burnout. You know, with our women's network, we couldn't do our annual summit this year physically. And like everybody else, you know, necessity is the mother of all creation. So everybody found another way of connecting, of networking. We've been doing our WinTrade Global talks. We started with the minister, had over 1,000 Black businesses online at the end of June. We carried on with everybody from the VP of Facebook through to a princess in Oman, through to Gina Miller, and right up to today. In fact, I'm going to be cheeky and say we have another session with the Minister for Business at 5 o'clock this afternoon. And if you want to know what's going to happen through the next round of lockdown, and they're predicting there will be one, you have to be online this afternoon to hear about that. I'm going to ask Shania to put the link up later on, or send you the link. But you know, it's all about passion. You know, I've had a few people saying to me, oh, it's all right for you, you know, the government is, you know, paying you to do this. I've got to tell you, the first webinar that I did and this webinar that I'm doing for government, it's not for the government, it's for the businesses, the Black businesses that I want to see survive through lockdown, because we all know we've been hit as a community, whether we're, you know, the kind of at the forefront of the front line of the public services, whether it's the trains, whether it's the buses, whether it's owning the corner shop, whether it's the markets, where our businesses are more physical. So we do the hairdressing, we do the makeup, we do, you know, we do all those types of things, and we've been hit the hardest. So please, please, please get online, hold the minister's feet to the fire, because you can ask him direct questions. But I'm doing it because I'm passionate, and it's passion that drives me.
And to the rest of the panel, I guess, just taking that bit further, for somebody who maybe wants to support but also open up opportunities for people from the community, what sort of steps would you suggest that they take to support opening those opportunities for others?
I wanted to answer that by saying we can mentor, but we have so much mentorship in the community. What we don't have is sponsorship, and there's a difference. We need to be sponsoring. We need somebody to say, you know what, I know Dr. Thompson, and I'm going to introduce you to her. People lend their time and whatever resources they have. So if you have resources of, you can mentor. If you have resources of, you can connect somebody to something else. If you have resources of, you say, okay, Ava has this business, I've got this idea, why not approach her and partnership? Those are the kind of things we need. We don't need somebody to just come on a Zoom and have a conversation. What's the action that you take next? How do you sponsor? How do you open a door? How do you connect? How do you say, this is a better way to do it? And those are the things that I think, those are the pieces that are missing, in my view. Because we have so many mentors, we have so many webinars, we have so many of those, but then what's next? And the last thing that I want to say on that is, what action do you take? Because you have to take personal responsibility. It's not enough to just come on something and then what, the hoorah. What do you do next? How can you help to transform? And literally the action steps. I really believe in action, because we can be motivated, we can be inspired, but to be transformed means you have to take action. So the action,
100%.
it's the hoorah is enough now. We've had enough of that. We're in COVID. Let's just think about what are the steps. Whenever I teach my business leaders, I had a mastermind last night that I ran. I said, look, what steps will you take today, this week, to make sure you get to that level? And those are some of the kind of things that we have to start having people be held accountable for their own lives.
Yeah, if I just follow on that, Ava, because at the minute we now are having this conversation, and we're bringing together all these people, and we're talking about important things because it's Black History Month. And one of the things here in Wales that I have to commend Uzo Iwobi, OBE, is that she has launched in Wales. It's no longer Black History Month, it's Black History 365. It's every day now. We need to continue these conversations, because as you said, Ava, what's the point of having all of these conversations, these forums, and we come up with all of these initiatives or thoughts of what we probably should or should not do, but then we leave it at the end of on the 31st of October. And we move on to next year. There's no kind of continuity. So I'm very excited to be here in Wales. And also because I am the owner of a networking organization as well as a business building organization, I am at the pulse of what's happening with businesses. And I can tell you right now, BME businesses, they are struggling, but so are all businesses. And we all have to have a collective vision. We have to have a collective purpose, and we've got to make it consistent. So quite honestly, what you've said, you couldn't say it any better, Ava. It's got to be more than just talk. And I'm just waiting. I'm excited to see what's going to be happening with Black History 365.
And I think just to follow on from yourselves, I think the answer to your question, Sharon, from my perspective, let's just put all the kind of motivational stuff to one side for a second. Let's be honest and real about the fact that everyone has been disrupted globally, and it's forced everyone to be more reflective about who they are, what they stand for, both as individuals and organizations. So whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a FTSE 100 company, it doesn't really matter. You've been disrupted in some shape or form. The question is, what does the future look like for you now? And what is your definition of success? Now, the ability to identify what the future looks like is a difficult one to answer, because there's no sense of what normal is anymore. There are maybe certain traits that people can hang on to from pre-COVID that they can start to work on again to help them through recovery and beyond. But the reality is that this new world is something that is being created as we go through this process. From an entrepreneurial point of view, for me, that's the opportunity. Where there's chaos, there is absolute opportunity. There's opportunity for us all to be more inclusive. There's an opportunity for us all to be better, more collaborative, better connected. But it does mean, as you absolutely said, Ava, accountability. Are you going to be held accountable for the things that you now see you're going to do to lead yourself and others out of this recovery and beyond? And what does accountability actually look like? How are you going to be measured? What does success look like for you and everyone else moving forward? So if you're an organization that wants to help and doesn't know how to, I would ask you to think about, what does success look like for you? How are you going to hold yourself accountable for the actions that you say you're going to take? And then who can you align with your value proposition and what they're doing? And how can you then move together in that sense of action and accountability? Because if you don't hold each other to account, no matter what you do, it doesn't make any sense. We just go back to a siloed mentality state, which means that no one actually wins. And in this time, more than ever, we've all suffered, and we all have to win together.
And collaboration is very important now, because some people might not. We talked earlier about having skills and not having certain skills, and needing to bring people in who have the skills you don't. And some people might not be able to afford to employ this kind of skill. But how about thinking about collaborating with people, using them as your somebody that provides that skill for you, and you white label it. Let's be creative. Whatever we can do to do what we've got to do, and do it with the utmost of excellence. So don't let the fact that you do not have any money stop you from getting the talent that you need to enhance your product. See how you can collaborate and get it done. Okay?
Can I say this quickly to the CEOs who are employing at the moment?
Yes.
Examine your board. Do you have enough BIM? Are you actually hitting the quota? Now is a good time to start really thinking about
I think they're all scurrying around trying to find exactly that quota. When I became chair of the Radio Academy 3 years ago, my message to the radio industry was diversify or die. I think I was probably one of the most hated people at the time. Without anyone physically saying that, I felt it. And now I think to myself, if they'd just taken a little bit of that advice 3 years ago, they wouldn't have to be scurrying around now and trying to, they're all behind the curve. They're trying to catch up. Can I just also say something about Ava? Two things. Companies, corporates have CSR. Personally, we should have PSR, personal social responsibility. And I think that's something that we should all have. But having said that, you also mentioned that, if you're looking for a mentor, I can recommend this person, and you mentioned my name, please.
I didn't mean it that way.
Be careful.
No, let's clarify.
As there are so few of us, that everybody, if I were to accept everyone, I'd be doing it full time and I wouldn't have a business.
Understood what I said. I was not putting you forward. I was saying for people. No, so let me just clarify. I was not saying go towards Dr. Thompson. I think she had said something. I was saying, for example, what she said. I'm just saying that when we are talking about mentorship, more rather than just mentoring, I was focusing more on sponsorship. So I trying to drop you into the hole at all. Not at
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
And
You are right, though.
sponsorship's even worse.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
I'm very conscious that we now have about 20 minutes to go. There's still a fair few questions coming through from the audience, but we also really want to hear about what's next for each of you guys, what's coming up. Joel, we talked about Black Business Live. Do you want to tell the audience a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So early in the year, I was slightly frustrated about the lack of stories and experiences of Black businesses in mainstream media during this COVID time. Mm-hmm. So I created a joint venture to create a live stream business channel for Black businesses. And Black Business Live launches next week, Thursday. It's a full day of support and kindly partnering with NatWest. So thank you for your support on that as well. And what we're doing is showcasing a number of Black entrepreneurs, but also elements of our culture. So we've got comedians, we've got food, we've got style, but we've got entrepreneurs talking about their journey, not from this is how you do your business plan or marketing plan, but a bit like what we're doing today. It's the nuggets of wisdom from their experiences as leaders in particular areas and sectors. So Black Business Live is something that I'm really, really proud of, and the team that we have, it's fantastic, and it's just the start of a journey for us. But I just felt that there wasn't enough representative voices around the experience of Black businesses during COVID. It just seems to be something that's resonating. So people can still register. It's completely free. So we've funded that, and obviously the support from NatWest with their support as well in terms of resources as well. But it's event now live .online is the URL, so people can happily register and look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you. That's brilliant, Joel. Bernie, what's next for you?
Well, gosh, well, I will continue to lend my support and my services to the Black History Wales Management Committee, which I sit on, and also with the Swansea BME Society and African Caribbean Society. I do try to get involved because I'm not just about speaking, I actually do it, but also in terms of my business, of course, my book. That is something that I'm really keen to support businesses with. I actually wrote the book. I can't, if you can see, guys, I'm not good at this Zoom thing. All right, there we have it. Your business, your way. I wrote it actually to support businesses at this time during the pandemic, people who are trying to pivot, as they call it, people who are trying to start something new, people who want to refresh their business. It is a companion business book with a lot of information there that can support and help. So you can go and get it, guys. But then I also have a conference because like Dr. Thompson and Ava and the rest of the panel here, we're all about empowering people. And I have a women's conference on the 26th of November. It's going to be a global conference. We have women from the global customer director for Coca-Cola, ITV, another bank. People from all over the globe that are going to be speaking. So check, have a look on Eventbrite for that. That's coming tomorrow. It's as I said, it's about business, about people. I am also hosting a summit tomorrow, a Healthy Business Summit. And we have ITV's Andrea Byrne is headlining that. And we have a lot of other incredible people who are just dealing with healthy finance as well as healthy lives and lifestyles. So I'm just going to continue to do what I am doing, helping people to understand that their business will not surpass their own limitations. They're their best product. Helping people to find the uniqueness in themselves and their business, own it, bottle it, sell it, and helping people to find that thing that makes them legacy makers. And that's what I just continue doing.
Brilliant. Thank you, Bernie. Ava?
Great stuff you guys are doing. I love the business that Joel's doing. A couple of things from me. I want to start off by saying I'm the girl who failed English and math in high school, and a teenage mother product. And I said that to lead on to say the homeless, I was homeless as a teenager. I am sitting on the steering committee of a bank, another bank, representing BAME. I was actually invited into that, which is so great. So I'm helping to shape, especially around women, Black women in business, for another bank. I have a scholarship. I'm trying to wrap up. I got a scholarship last year at Ulster University studying social economy, which I think social economy is so massive, and philanthropy. So I'm wrapping that up November. I also I'm about to launch my own podcast, 2 million listeners. I've been invited to a great podcast. I think I'm going to do very well, actually. Yeah, I'm about to start a new podcast. I'm just in the creating the content right now. 2 million downloads every month. So I think that's really exciting, and it's focused on women across North America, Europe, and the Caribbean. I also left this for last because I pivoted long before COVID, about nearly 2 years ago, and started a brand, which is I'm going to show you, called the Mango Girl. So that's my own brand. We have hair and skin line. And this year, I'm really focused on the e-commerce side of my business because I really think that there's great value to it. They're handmade, grandma, Caribbean recipes. We're doing really well. We're in Vogue and Harper's Bazaar, and we were in the Telegraph, and we're doing fantastically well. And so a lot of my energy as a single mother of 2 children is really focused on those things. I really want to leave by saying that I said all of that to say this, that the word impossible really means that you're impossible. And there are no limitations on except the ones you put on yourself. And if I can be sat here having this conversation as a child of a teenage mother who saw mangoes on the train, who was homeless, sexual abuse at gunpoint, and I'm still standing, the power of the ask is big. And as entrepreneurs, we have to understand the power of the ask. The other thing I'm doing is I have a lot of speaking engagements online. It's a little bit different, but the power of the ask is massive. And do not be afraid to ask as entrepreneur, because sometimes the person who has what you need is there, but you're afraid to ask. And if you ask not, as the Bible said, you receive not. And that's what I'm up to.
Amazing.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Ava. And Dr. Thompson, over to you.
Wow. Well, how do I match all that? The only way I can match it is by all the years. That's all. But fantastic to hear all of your stories. And I think we all come from the same kind of backgrounds, large families, very poor starts. And again, a bit like Ava, you know, if I can come from a mother who worked 3 jobs to feed the family. My dad worked at St. Thomas's Hospital all his life. I used to go to work with him and just to find out what he actually did, you know, go and see him and stuff like that. And, you know, I came from, I wouldn't say I came from nothing, because I think my family values and the work ethic that my parents instilled in me is something that keeps me going. I'm always up. You can see me at my laptop 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning until whatever time I fall asleep at my desk usually, which is not a good thing. I'm not advocating that that's what you should do. But again, you know, come from a poor background. I now have 1 CBE, which I got 17 years ago, given to me by the Queen for the work that I do with women, minorities and small business. I've got 2 doctorates from Plymouth University and from London Metropolitan University. And I've got 3 fellowships from the RSA, from St. George's College in Windsor, and from King's College in London. So those are my 1, 2, 3s. And like everybody else, I'm not telling you to impress you, but I'm telling you to impress upon you that if I can do it, you can do it too. It's just passion, it's resilience, it's bounce back ability, it's focus. I say focus on your focus and you can't go wrong. I'm just going to be continuing. I was trying to write another book, part 2 of my book, 7 Traits of Highly Successful Women on Boards, but COVID has just, well, it hasn't overtaken my life. Lockdown has overtaken my life, and I am busier than ever. I've not stopped. I'm speaking for other people like you, Ava. I'm, you know, after this, I'm doing the ministers thing this afternoon. I've got another interview in between, and it's practically every day.
Yes.
So it's good in one way, but your life is no longer your own. And, you know, I've got the other thing that I think as entrepreneurs and busy entrepreneurs that we have to learn to say and know when to say is no.
Yeah, and no is a complete sentence.
Yeah. Can
No
I just
is a complete sentence.
Yeah.
can I just add something? While Dr. Thompson was speaking, I thought to myself, oh gosh, when I said it, Dr. Thompson, that's what my mother is Dr. Thompson, or she was. I keep thinking back to my. It's so weird. Yeah, but Dr. Thompson was saying.
No, you're not talking to your mum. You're not talking to your mum.
I thought I needed to just give an example, a present day example of hope for the people that are listening. No, I've mentored quite a few people, but I've started mentoring in the BME community recently. And I've got to say, I have a young lady, Dr. Yumna Mohammed, who won 2 weeks ago an award, a fellowship one. First, I mentored her to when she actually won that fellowship with Cardiff University for £60,000 to bring a Black product to market, which is one to help with your natural hair coming your hair. You know, you've got to find Dr. Mohammed. She won last week Womanspire 2020 STEM Award. She was featured on ITV. That's a Black young lady that I mentored when I started to speak to her first. Despite the fact she was lecturing at the university in Swansea, she didn't have the confidence. She didn't know what to do or where to put her product. And so, you know, fellow ethnic minority people that are listening, yes, you can. We have people here that can mentor you. Dr. Thompson is busy. I am busy, but I am looking to leave my legacy. Right. So if you need me to help, I'm mentoring, I'm focusing on the BME community. I want to be able to sing more praises of different people in our community that are doing well. So yeah, I just thought I'd leave that because that's
Can I just say something really quickly, because there's one area that I'm super passionate about, separate from my own business, is that I just wanted to say, which is young Black boys at this moment in time. I've met so many young Black men through this COVID period, you know, who have suffered from mental health challenges, suicidal challenges, issues around masculinity, you know, as well as men who are married, who have got challenges around taking care of their families and how that makes them feel, a whole number of things. And so just very quickly, for any of young Black men or men of any age, I guess, who might be on the call, you know, I'm someone who, you know, inner city, like many of us here, poor background, family, etc. Mum and dad broke up when I was 2. So mum brought me up, 2.5, 3 jobs, whole shebang. I tried to commit suicide when I was 13, was rubbish at that. So I kind of had identity issues about who I was and all sorts. Got a job in a factory, age of 16, peeler stickers off hangers, and didn't go to university, finished college, well, left college with 2 months to go, didn't actually finish college. So, and now, you know, I'm really humbled by, you know, what's been achieved in my own life, in my own career, and what I'm about to do with the presidency of the Commonwealth Chamber. And for me, I just want to show young Black men that it's not about where you come from, it's about where you're going. Don't be defined by the negatives you experience, but learn from them and use them to charge your future, because you are in control. And it's okay to cry as a man. You know, it is actually okay to cry, but it's about trying to be the best that you can. And while there are not enough Black role models, you know, there used to be the REACH program in the UK. I've not seen anything like that since, but just bear in mind that there are Black men out there who are doing the best that they can. And so don't feel that you're alone, because you're not.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Joel. That was incredible. And
can I just quickly say something? I just saw on the chat, people are asking about how to register for the conference. If you just go to berniedavies.com and go to the motivational speaking page, the event is there. It's the Your Way Global Women's Conference. So all the events and everything is on there.
And Joel, just to say what you said quickly, for those who are listening, I know we're wrapping up, it's okay not to be okay, but it's to be able to find people you can trust to help enable you. because there are people who can enable you, and it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to cry. It's okay to say I'm not feeling okay, rather than the option don't suffer in silence. It's a very challenging period, even for businesses. It's hard, and some of us our funds are lower and everything is like that. But understand that everything you have is within you, and that it might be the time for us to look at how we spend and how we live. And once you have the people that you love around you, that's enough to get you through anything. I just really had to say that, because that's also the social and the emotional aspect of who we are as human beings need to be fed and need to be watered. And I just think that's so fundamentally important in this time.
And need to be loved.
And need to be loved. Yes,
Absolutely.
God. Need to
I
be
think
loved.
one of the things that's come to my mind, and I'm really getting a sense of, is that every single one of you are doing so much to give back. There's not one thing you're doing, there's loads of different things that you're doing. But I have a sense that that was always the case. And the overriding thought that's coming to my mind is that you have created your own platform. So you didn't wait until you had the business or the platform or somebody else gave it to you. You created that platform for yourself. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yes.
Yes.
I was forced. I was forced to
There
criticize.
was no
My
choice.
daughter became blind. My daughter was blind. I was in a corporate job where there was racism. I was the best and I was overlooked. And I just thought, I'm a single mom. I was getting divorced. My children needed me. And I asked to work from home. Can you imagine? Look at the irony. I was asking to work from home and they wouldn't let me. And I had to make a hard choice, and I chose my children. So I was forced, but I was able to lean back on the resilience since I was a child selling mangoes on the train. And still today, I'm still standing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Shania, over to you.
Well, no, I just wanted to say I can't say a big enough thank you to all of you. All four of you personally are inspirations to me. You are doing so much, as Sharon said. You are incredible role models. And it's that sense of, sorry to quote Drake, but that I guess that started from the bottom, now we're here, which makes it even more sort of personable and relatable. So thank you so much for today, but also everything that you do also do to support the community. And I just want to say a final thank you to our audience for being so engaged. Sorry we couldn't get to your questions, but I'm sure that you got so much from the conversation as I did, because I just think there's so many nuggets and all of your experiences would be so helpful to so many entrepreneurs, but also to people in their personal lives as well who are striving, and especially at this moment that we find ourselves in, where things are maybe not as we would all want them, but I think just that sense of supporting each other, that sense of community, understanding that you've talked about throughout today, will really resonate with so many people. So after my final thoughts, there's one more thing that I do have to ask from our audience. If you've enjoyed today's session, we do always value the feedback that you provide. I believe my colleagues should be putting up a QR code that you can scan any moment now. So if you can scan that to send us some feedback. If you have enjoyed today's session, Sharon and I have worked incredibly hard, as well as team members behind the background. So please do give us a 9 or a 10 if you've really enjoyed it, but also we do really appreciate your verbatim feedback as well, so that we can keep bringing you sessions like this and improving the support that we provide to entrepreneurs. So on that note, I would just like to say another massive thank you to everybody, and to you, Sharon, because you've been an incredible co-host today, and enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll see you at Black Business Live next week. I'll see you at Bernie's session on the 26th of November, and also Ava and Yvonne. Yvonne's session later today at 5 with the Minister. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you all. It's been brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So for our audience, we're going to leave that QR code up there so you can take a shot of that. This video has been recorded and will be posted onto YouTube in the next week or so. So you'll have an opportunity to watch it back. A massive thank you. Our next audience is going to be with David Buttress, and that's on the 25th of November. Once again, you'll be able to sign up through Eventbrite. But a massive thank you. Have an amazing day, and audience members, this has been one of the best interviews ever. So thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Oh, and can I just quickly say, quick cheeky plug. If anybody wants to join me in the morning BBC Radio Wales breakfast show between 7:40 and 8, I'm going to be talking about the glass ceiling, getting above the glass ceiling as BME entrepreneurs. Okay.
Can I just say, I'm just so honored and humbled to have served with you guys and get to walk side by side with you guys right now. And I'm just grateful to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Same here, Ava. Same here.
And likewise for me, it's been great being the minority within the minority today. I accept that. I take it humbly, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. And Dr. Thompson,